So today I am joined by a professor from the University of America, which is Washington and Lee University. But before we proceed on, I would allow him introduce himself and then we can move on. So yeah, would you like to give a brief explanation of who you are and what do you do in general?
My name is Muhammed Camara. I'm a professor of French and Africana Studies at Washington and Lee University in Virginia in the United States. So I teach mostly French courses, but I teach courses on African culture, Caribbean culture, and literature in English as well. And so my main appointment is in the Romance Languages Department, but I'm also the core faculty of the Africana Studies program at Washington and Lee University.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Kamran. So the first question I've got for you is the future of African education, right? So what do you believe the future of African education should look like in the next decades to come, like in the next 10 or 20 years to come? Yeah.
First of all, any educational system that is created must first of all be created for a particular group of people based on the history of that people, based on their needs, their human needs, their technological needs, based on their philosophy of life.
Right.
And so that is a fundamental point. And so when we talk about the future of education or the future of African education, of course, that educational system must be built, first of all, on the foundation of history, on the foundation of the culture and civilization of the continent, which also includes encounters with other peoples,
Right.
Whether they are Europeans or Arabs or Asians over the several centuries of human interactions.
Right.
But most importantly, to look at the flow of history and where the next 10, 20, 30 years are going to be. Nobody can say for certain what they are going to be. So the needs of the present will determine the kind of educational system that will be built that look into the future. First of all, understanding the geography of a country to understand the country's resources. In addition to what I said earlier, the understanding of the country's history and culture and civilization. And what the specific needs of those people are, and especially keeping in mind future generations. So the children of today will be the leaders of tomorrow. This is a common statement that we hear all the time, right? But precisely what our intentions and our goals and our understanding of development for the current generation will determine what our vision and mission is with regards to the educational system that we set up for the future.
Right. Thank you. So we most often hear people talk about traditional education, as in like African system of education. But now that the world has, modernized, how can African education, like how can we introduce a system of education in our curriculums that equips students to like become entrepreneurs in the future? Also, not just entrepreneurs but innovators, I would say, because when you look at the Western world, comparing it to Africa, Africans have this limit of education, I would say. Yeah, but how can we transform the educational system so we produce students that are like innovators in the future and entrepreneurs as well? Yeah.
As we know, the history of technology, much of technology that has been created is not necessarily predictable. We can predict the general contours of technology, right? Several hundred years ago, if you will, people thought about aeroplanes, and some people thought that such a thing will never be built.
Right.
So, which means you have to have a dream, you have to have a vision, you have to have a basic understanding of how certain things work, right? But the most important thing also is what are the human values of the educational system. We talk often about technology and kinetic development, that is physical development, buildings and roads and things like that. But what are the human values? What are the how does that help to dignify the human being?
Right.
How does it help to make the human being better and their lives better? So the educational system today and tomorrow should focus first of all on that foundational, that fundamental truth of what the human needs, so spiritual needs, the physical needs, and the moral needs of the people. And once you base your educational system on those principles, and then use the resources that you already have
Right.
and the methodologies that you already have, and you give the people that you are teaching, especially the children, freedom of thinking, the ability to be self-critical, and then you open the door for innovation. You don't impose innovation, you encourage innovation. You give education that will give somebody ability to think beyond the present, to think beyond what they are looking at, and see how that can open a window into a world that is yet to come. So, but that is based on a moral, spiritual education, but one that is also fundamentally geared toward the improvement of the human person.
Right. Yeah. So now let's talk about partnership. We've seen like in the world here, not just education, but in businesses or in many sectors as well. There are partnerships that allows one to succeed in so many different sectors that they are in.
Yes.
So what do you think like partnerships can do for like African education? I would say international universities, and they can play a very vital role in education across Africa without overshadowing local priorities, right? So how do you think that this can happen? How do you think we can include partnerships that like help in making this work?
Exactly. That's a very, very important question, right? First of all, you have to know what you want.
Right.
You have to know what your priorities are. You have to know what your capabilities are. You want to. You really need to know what resources you have at your disposal. Those are both intellectual and physical resources, natural resources, right? That is the starting point, because if you don't know what you want, if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you have, there is no way you can interface with somebody else.
Exactly.
Right. And so know your priorities, and that is what determines when you meet the person, because we live in interlinked communities.
Right.
We live in intercultural societies. We live in interconnected communities. No one can develop in isolation. Okay.
Right.
And so for you to work in partnership with other people, you have to take care of all those fundamental issues. First of all, to know who you are, what you want, and what you have,
Right.
and then to negotiate with those people. And also fundamentally, you have to respect yourself and your own position,
Right.
so that when you negotiate with the potential partner,
Right.
they have respect for you. You don't demand respect; you show respect for yourself first, and then that can elicit respect
Yeah.
for the other people. And so once you meet those people, you sit down and you talk, you discuss, and they share also what they have, what are they bringing into this new relationship, into this new partnership, and then you decide what the common interests are. And based on that, you can figure out the details of the percentage, who gets what percentage of what, depending on what they bring into it.
Right.
So the question of fairness is also very, very important as well, right? But most importantly, again, the ability, first of all, to know your strengths and your weaknesses, and to know exactly what you can bring, and how you can stand on your own principles, as well as on the things that you already have, or you might potentially have.
Right. Interesting. So that brings us to the end of the conversation. But I would want you to give an advice, or I would say, what advice do you have for the younger generation that are trying to use education as a tool to create a change in their communities? Yeah. What advice would you give to these young people?
So the most important thing, right? Because education is a tool.
Right.
We often hear that education is the key to progress, is the key to better life, is the key to liberation.
Right.
Right. So which makes education an instrument to attain something else.
Right.
And whatever that something else, the individual determines it, the society determines what it is, right? And so if you are going to create a educational system for the improvement of your society, first of all, you have to understand that society.
Yeah.
You have to know the history of that society. You have to know what this society wants. But most importantly also, you have to have the society to have a buy-in, to have an investment in that.
Right.
Because you cannot impose good on people. You can come and have the best idea to build a hospital or a school. But if you don't bring the people to understand the value of what you are building, you're wasting your time, right? If an Aboriginal, Australian Aboriginal woman once said, Lila Watson is her name, if you have come to help me, then don't stay. But if you have come because you believe that my problem is your problem, then we can work together.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So the ability to work together with those people for whom you have this idea for goodness is the most important thing. So have a good idea, come to the people, talk to them and see what they think about that, allow them to have an input into how to make that idea better for them.
Right.
If they don't want it, then you cannot do
You
it.
cannot do it,
You cannot
exactly.
do it. There's
Yeah.
no point, no matter how brilliant your idea
Yeah,
is, you cannot do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing your insights, Mr. Camara. And
Yes,
it's
of course.
so encouraging to hear your perspective about how education can unlock Africa's potential. And we're hoping to have you back on this program again.
Yes,
Thank you
indeed.
so much. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.